Welcome to Agility Awakenings podcast, where I interact with great thought leaders, explore the holistic view of agility, and finding ways to understand the system's dynamics better. Today, we are talking about selfless leadership and systems thinking with Katrin, an expert on guiding leaders toward authentic, effortless, selfless leadership journey. Her coaching is based on her understanding of non-dual approaches which emphasize the illusion of the separate self and the unity of all existence. It's time to get some deeper insights from our wonderful guest. Hello, Catherine. I'm so delighted to have you here as my guest.
Hi.
We are so excited to listen about selfless leadership and how it is helpful to understand the system's dynamic.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm happy to be here, and I hope that this explanation helps. So selfless leadership, when I say selfless, what it's really pointing to is no longer believing that we are a separate self. So this is very important because I don't mean selfless in the sense of very humble or always serving other people and only being in service. That's the result of seeing that we're not a separate self. But that's not what I mean by selfless. Selfless leadership means I am in a leadership role or I take on leadership tasks. There is leadership, but it is without believing that I am separate from others and that I am a self. And so people always ask, right, what does that mean? How can what am I if I'm not a self? How can you say I'm not a self? And basically, we can explain this in two different ways. And I'll start with the first one and then try the other one and see which one works best. But really, this idea that we are the body and the mind, and that this is a person with an identity that is consistent over time, and a person, really, everything we feel as me, I, mine, this is actually an illusion created by the brain. So if you look from the cognitive science or the scientific point of view, it is actually clear now that the mind, the brain, creates the illusion of this person that exists over time. And it might be evolutionary, an evolutionary skill set or something that was helpful in our social survival as a group. Human beings, they operate in groups. But we learn this as small children, and then we believe we're a separate self. So this is the one explanation that's just an illusion created by the brain. The other thing comes more from the, you could say, spiritual side, or for example, the Advaita Vedanta background that says, look, we're mistaken as human beings to believe that we are separate, that we are selves. There is really only consciousness. And we over-identify, we identify with this body and mind and believe it is ours, and that we are the doer and the actor, and we'll get into that, right, what that means. So selfless leadership is leadership that has seen, so it's informed by, I am not a separate self. The separate self is an illusion.
It is so deep. With this understanding, how can we work in an organization where there are more constraints like policies and governance?
Yeah, so the really interesting thing is that when you see the self as an illusion, nothing really changes except that you stop believing that you're the doer. So this is one of there are 4 insights that I describe in my book, Selfless Leadership. And the first one is that we are being lived. And this is one of the insights that follows from seeing this, that we are selfless, that we are not a separate self. All this time, the action that happens, what I'm saying right now, the action of this body, it is just life living through me. Only since the age of 2, 3, 4 years old, we started to believe that I am the one in control of this. I am the one doing this. And this I is the illusion, right? So when we see that, and there are exercises and practices that you can do to help you see that. But when you see that, it becomes clear that, look, life is just flowing through me. So my skills, my interests, how I want to develop myself, and how I act in an organization, how I am as a leader, or what I do in leadership, this is simply something I don't have to think about that. I don't have to do it. It flows through me. In fact, it works better, and it is flow. It is pure flow and pure joy and service if I don't think about it. If I don't try to get in the way with my little ego, which doesn't really exist, which is just a set of beliefs that I have about who I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do. So the people I work with, once they've seen this, many of them, first of all, there's this big relief, right? Oh, I don't, have to go into that meeting and manage everything, manage my behavior, manage how other people are seeing me, manage my goals and desires and needs and all of this stuff that we're constantly trying to do and create and juggle. No, I can just relax and let life flow because that's what's happening anyway. I used to believe that I was in control and I had to do this. I had to put all this energy into it. So this first insight, where being lived, it actually takes away all the stress and anxiety about being an identity, being a person. And sometimes for the very first time, we can just relax and co-create and collaborate with others.
Relax and let life flow. Amazing. In that relaxed state, we can be just at present, live in humility, and sensing the emerging patterns by aligning with reality so that we can adapt our action. Wow, great.
Yes, it's direct. It's living in the now, right? Being present, living in the now. All these things we keep hearing. It's try something out, test it, iterate. That whole idea is very congruent with where being lived. And the funny thing, I mean, the interesting thing is that it's always been like that. We were just pretending with all these goals and plans, and we can manage it, we can control it. This is Taylor and Taylor stuff from the 19th century, and it's the same type of thinking as science used to be. We can if we just understand everything, we can control it, and we can control nature and life and everything. We just need to figure it out. And I think humanity is starting to figure out that is not true. It's not possible. The only thing we can do is flow with what is already occurring.
Yeah, letting go of control is a difficult choice for an egocentric mind.
And it's very confronting, right? Because we want to believe, the ego wants to believe it has control. And I always say this is the first insight, but it's also the most important, because once you've seen this, the rest is easy. And there are certain exercises that you can do to see this in your direct experience. But I think the most powerful one is to see really how we believe that we have choices and we believe that we decide. But if you look at your direct experience, you always already act. And then and this has been, proven in these split brain experiments, then the left brain comes in and explains to you why you did that and has some sort of congruent story about, it was because of this, or some causal explanation that's actually total bullshit. But your brain immediately comes up with that because its job is to explain the world. But if you look closely, and this is true for all of us and any decision, it doesn't matter whether it's, firing 100 people or choosing whether you want tea or coffee. It is simply something that happens based on millions of variables coming together in a specific moment. Your genetics, your background, your experience, the bad experience you had with coffee when you were 10, you tried it and it tasted disgusting. So now you choose tea. And all of these other different variables that you have zero control over. You don't even know they exist. And now they're coming together today and you fire 100 people. Or you choose coffee or you choose tea. But we believe, and this is an illusion, we believe we have volition, that we decide, we have free will, we choose. And it's just simply not true. So there are ways, and this is what it takes, right? Just hearing me say this, everybody will say, yeah, I don't believe it. Or that's not true. Which is normal. That's the normal reaction to a cognitive bias, right? It's not true. But if you're interested in this, there are practices that you can do, exercises that show you. And then it will convince you because it's just obvious.
If there is no self and we are being lived, then whom do we call a selfless leader?
This whole selfless leadership thing, it's not the selfless leader, it's selfless leadership. So it's not about you, obviously, because it's about seeing there is no you, or the you is an illusion. It's not that there is a body and a mind, but this person is an illusion. And it always starts with that. So everything else, all the benefits in the sense of, I'm not so stressed anymore. I don't need to follow this plan to the letter. I will find out what the customer wants. I don't need to know beforehand. All of this follows from seeing what is really true within. And that's why selfless leadership invites people to look inside and see these truths first, and not just believe a new set of beliefs or try to change something before they've seen it. Because the first insight is we're being lived, but the second one that is totally, it's also very important to seeing that we're not a separate self, is that we're new in every moment. So that's the second side, because most of us, all of us, we're convinced that we are something. So I am a woman, I am 47, I grew up in Thailand, I am good at languages, I am all this, everything that follows, I am, all these things we've learned since we were small children. This constitutes an identity that we believe in, and it limits us. Because not only do we do that to ourselves, we believe, right? We see others, and this is where all these biases come in. Oh, you are male, so you disrespect women. I don't know. Whatever our biases are, they're there. We don't even know they're there. They're internalized. We have them about ourselves. We have them about others. But so this set of beliefs, and it's changing all the time, but it feels like it creates an identity for us. This is who I am. This is me, and that's not you. I'm different. I'm unique. These are my values, my skills, blah, 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 blah. This is all stuff we learned. Somebody at some point told you, I don't know, you're arrogant. And over time, you believed that, and then there were experiences that you interpreted in a specific way, and now you're convinced that you're too arrogant and you have to work on this. So, and this is not about is it true or is it not true? It's just saying we all carry this set of beliefs that constitutes our identity, and they're all untrue. All of them are limits on what we are, because what we really are is that which is aware of the identity, that which is aware of being a separate person.
Then our true nature is awareness. That is simply brilliant.
So really a crucial part of this seeing the separate self is seeing, no, everything I think about myself, everything I think I am is a belief. Everything. And that means I cannot, all my judgments about myself and also about other persons are based on these beliefs. So there's no right or wrong way to be. There's no, you are good, you are bad, or this is why people do what they do. All this psychology, I'm sorry for the psychologists, but it's just ultimately not true and not helpful. We are freedom itself. We are simply life, as we said, living through us. And all these beliefs are simply limitations that we put on ourselves or on others, and that make it more difficult for us to simply be what we are. We limit ourselves, and we create all the problems in the world, all the relationship problems in the world. And this is very important for work in teams or in systems. And we can relate, we can be together from awareness instead of from the separate self. And that sounds kind of, I don't know, strange or woo-woo. It's not strange at all. It's just now at the moment, it's already the case. If we stop this, if we don't believe the limitation of the separate self, it's not, as soon as we talk about it, it sounds really complicated because you have to express it in words, but it's just a simple, you and me here now, there's just, all that is happening is what is spontaneously occurring. And at the same time, there's, am I talking sense? Is he understanding? Is this useful to the listeners? Blah, 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 right? All the beliefs going on the whole time. But at the same time, we can learn to let that be. That's always there. But we don't have to identify with that and interact from that. So then I would be interacting like this, right? There's only this limited space where, this is what I communicate with you. And instead we're open, we're new and open in every moment. And it's just flow.
It looks like a lot of unlearning is needed, right? But how can we unlearn all our beliefs?
Yes, it's sort of a shift. So the interest in the separate self, in who I am and what I want and what I need, it automatically decreases or actually dissolves, because the body takes care of itself, right? If I need food, I need water, I need sleep, I need some basic things. My body tells me when it's hungry. I need safety. As long as that is created, it's all fine. If we're in war and this doesn't apply, that's clear. The basic bodily needs need to be addressed first. But we're not talking about those situations. We're talking about normal work situations. Then it is possible to see, yes, all of this is, the person is there and it's happening, the conflicts, as you say, the relational stuff. But it is actually possible to disidentify with the separate self and to see that we are one connected awareness. And then it is me cooperating with me. It is not me versus you. It's me. It's various forms of me co-creating, cooperating, serving the customer, whatever it is we're doing. You are a different version of what I am, and we are meeting. So there's no longer this me versus you, self versus other, my interests versus your interests. Yes, the bodily, the physical needs, they're still there. It doesn't disappear, but it just becomes much less important. How can I need something on behalf of of a person that doesn't really exist? My body needs to eat all this stuff, yes, but it's also much less than we think, than we believe. The bodily needs are really very minimal. And everything else is just stuff we've learned. Oh, I need to have power. I need to decide. I need to show them that I'm worthy. I need to make the decision here. I need to look intelligent. I need to cooperate well with others. Or the other side, I need to be humble. I need to show that that I have humility, that I care, that I can create psychological safety. It's endless. And all of that you can come to see, that's just superfluous nonsense. It's not real.
To become servant leaders, we are really striving hard. It's an unnecessary burden on our shoulders.
Our whole paradigm and everything you read and see everywhere, there's a separate self, an identity, and this person needs to become a servant leader or needs to create, cultivate a selfless service or a servant attitude towards the team or whatever. But that's all an ego trying to do that. So what you end up with is an ego trying to be selfless, trying to be humble. And this is really, really painful to watch, right? We all know these people. They're like, oh, look at me, I'm so humble, or I'm trying so hard to care for you. And it's just all self-centered. It's the opposite of what they want. I'm going to be a servant leader. I'm going to go to the team and serve them. And everybody's like, no, please go away. I don't want your servers. So this doesn't work. But our whole paradigm at the moment is from the separate self. The only thing that works, and I'm very convinced of this, the only thing that works is to exit the paradigm of separate self. Then what we are is service, because we're not interested in the self. This self is just a construct. I don't care whether people like it or not. I don't care whether it looks like it's intelligent or not. Who cares? It's not there. It's not real. There's a body and there's some thoughts and stuff. What people think of me, it's irrelevant. So what is there left to do? Well, look at these, there's people here. Let's see what happens, what comes through. And there's no self-interest in that. I'm a coach, right? So apparently, well, I'm not, but that's what I currently say that I do. So people come and they want some guidance or some help. And then I help them. But if any of that would be about me, right? Am I doing this right? Am I really helping them? Is it working? What do they think of me? Will they leave a good testimonial? All this stuff. I can't be there for them. I can't help them. It doesn't work. It's binary. It's all or nothing.
So, Catherine, what I feel, if we stop interfering with our little selves and be natural, that's enough.
Yes, I think so too, because in that sense, we're unnecessary. And it's the weird thing is, I mean, growth, all this trying to achieve goals, getting somewhere, planning. It's not that that's bad. It's just that you don't have to do that. It happens automatically. Look, I mean, we're just like the rest of nature. You plant a seed, it grows. You don't have to do the growing. You don't have to go to the plant and kind of help it grow. That doesn't help. It's the same with human beings. We change, we grow, we adapt. That's all just living natural systems. But no, we humans, we're so self-absorbed and we're so full of ourselves that we think we need to do it.
Mm.
No, we don't. Children don't just develop. We need to go and help them. Employees don't develop. We have to go and grow them and make them into leaders. And it's so narcissistic. It's crazy. So that's one thing. It all just happens by itself. Agility, the company, it's an organic system. Leave it alone. And the other thing is, of course, there is only connection.
Mm.
The arrogance of thinking that I am separate. I'm not influenced by you. I do all of this by myself. You couldn't survive a single day without the rest of the universe. You wouldn't survive 1 second. Just materially, you're dependent on everything else. And for work, I mean, the idea that, no, I'm an island and I can do this by myself. For me, in the meantime, this idea is so crazy. I don't know where to start. There is nothing you do by yourself. Every thought that I have from somewhere else.
Mm.
It is not original. My ideas are not my ideas. They're things I've read 10 years ago, neurons firing in my brain in a certain way that seem to create, it seems like it comes from here, from inside here, and it's my doing. No, it's just like a cloud appears in the sky or, a thunderstorm appears. I have nothing to do with that. And I think this systems thinking is a great step forward. The problem is with many of these things, just as with agility, we look at systems thinking or at agility from the personal self perspective.
Mm.
So your personal selves trying to adopt a systems perspective doesn't work. It can't work. It's only in seeing that we are the system that we can adopt the systems perspective.
We are the system. Wow, that should be the culmination of systems thinking.
Everyone is stuck in this paradigm. I am separate. I am inside this body and mind, and this is separate from the environment. And until we all see, to some extent, we don't have to see the whole picture, but just seeing, even starting to intuit, maybe that is not true. Maybe that's just something we learned. Maybe there really is only connection and there is no separate self. Even if you just start to have some small idea of this, it changes everything.
Mm.
Because then it's no longer, how do I establish connection? That's ridiculous. There was never any separation. So what am I going to establish? I don't, and you're right. Everyone's talking about how do we create, co-creation in teams and collaboration in teams. And how do you stop creating separation? Question. Stop imagining separation, and what you're left with is connection. There is only connection.
That's a wonderful way to define connection. So when the leaders live these insights, they can create a positive environment which will be so contagious.
Yes, it's contagious, I guess, in a way. It's something that spreads, but really the only thing that's and this is the same for spiritual development or just for in general human development. It starts with you.
Mm.
The only thing you can do is to look within and to figure out what you really are, and that is what changes the world. Mahatma Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see," and he didn't mean like start cultivating values. He meant, find out what you really are, and that is what will change. And we put it the other way around. So we try to manipulate the environments And these are the values you need to cultivate. This is what all of you need to do. This is what the surroundings need to be like. And then there will be change. And that's just not true. It's the wrong way around. Change yourself by going within and finding out what is true. And that changes the world.
100%. I can say more than 100% because systems thinking is not just about only the objective dimension. Who is seeing the world? So when we have this sort of awareness, so then the new eyes, the new perspectives, how we are seeing the thing.
Yes. Yes. The absolute best thing you can do for the system is to discover that you are not a separate self.
We are just beating around the bushes. Focus on what really matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And just as maybe a last point about this, when you see that you're not a separate self, it doesn't mean you disappear, right? I'm obviously still here. I'm a person with a character and specific traits. And, nobody, I think, who knows me for a long time would say, oh, you're so different or something changed. It's just the identification changes. So it just becomes a lot less heavy and a lot less personal. And you automatically take this. You are the system. You take the system's perspective because you no longer take the personal perspective. So the shift is very subtle and it's very difficult to explain in words because it's more a quality of experience, but how you show up in the world and what that means for your surroundings is completely changed.
Maybe you can just share an insight about how we can express our true nature, that is service.
Well, that's the really cool part. Once you see that you're not a separate self, you can't not express the service because that is just what flows. My ego, right? My identity did not want to be doing this work. It's not good enough. It's not, doesn't have enough status. I could be continuing in organizations and advising executives and all this stuff I was doing with all the status and all the blah, blah, blah. It's not important enough to just sit here and write about there's no separate self. Nobody cares, so my ego, it's the wrong form of service. It's not, my ego has a big problem with it. But for the real me, in the sense of for that is that which expresses through me, this is it. I don't have a choice. I don't want a choice. This is just what happens. And that is, so nobody can tell you, look, this is what you're supposed to do. This is service. This is selfless service. If you hear anybody telling you what selfless service is, they're lying. Because what selfless service is a unique expression of the absolute through you. And nobody can tell you what that is. It will simply emerge when you get your ego out of the way.
Yeah. A funny way of saying the things like, we have met the enemy and he is us.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The voice in our head.
Yeah. Right. So we always think that this is what defining the service. This is what the service is all about. This is what I want to express. No, when we start defining the things, right? This is how we have to do. There itself, I feel like we are setting the base for the limiting belief.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And some people will serve by feeding the homeless. Other people will serve through writing a novel. Other people will serve through doing nothing, watching the sunrise. It doesn't matter. Service, the expression of what you are. And it's in service because it is not about you. So it is in service to that what is. And that can be as humble or as fantastic. But I know one thing, and that is that nobody can judge it. Nobody knows what service looks like for you.
Yeah, it's a unique, the creative expression through us from the absolute.
Maybe the only question you can ask is it about me? Is it about my need? Is it something that I believe I should do? Well, then it's not service. Well, in exactly the same way that someone would write a novel, right? So if your job is middle management in a big corporation, and this is what is flowing through you because it is what is, as soon as it's not about you, it's service. It can be the bookkeeping department. You can be a CEO and be in selfless service. For all I know, Elon Musk is in selfless service. We don't know. The criterion is simply, is this about a separate self? Is this about an ego and its goals? Or is this simply what is flowing through me? And that is always already happening. The only thing is that ego has judgments on top of it. Oh, I shouldn't be the cleaning lady. I should be something else. I shouldn't be the CEO. I should be whatever, the president of the United States. We always want something different than what is. But service is just being what is without the ego. That's it. It's whatever occurs without the separate self. The purpose of life is to live. It is being alive. That's it. It's enough. Yeah, it's so difficult to explain because when the more you understand, the less questions make any sense. If you ask me now, are you living your purpose? I don't know what that means. Of course, there the purpose. So I remember a time when, it was really important to figure out what are my strengths, what is my character like, what are my values, what is my purpose, and now it's just why? It's totally irrelevant. It's always a separate ego that needs to know that it needs to cut off a little space of the universe. This is mine. Here now, empty. So I need to fill it with purpose because I've cut myself off from the rest.
I feel like honestly, we have to see what we are thinking to understand our thought process.
I wouldn't say understand because it's impossible to understand, but just to see it for what it is, which is just additional layers on top of reality. We don't need it. One of the most difficult things to make people understand is that you can totally ignore the mind, literally ignore everything. You can stop them if you could stop it, right? You could be brain dead, not literally, but it would change anything. You'd be just as successful, just as alive and kicking as if you believe all or listen to all of these thoughts. Thoughts have no power unless you give them power.
We are always like our own awareness and just give a space for all the thoughts to come and go and enjoy.
You can't give the space, right? It always sounds like, and that's language, it always sounds like you have to do something. You can't do anything.
Yeah.
You already are the space.
Yes.
Thoughts come and go and they do absolutely nothing. It's all a mind trick. Now we're full circle, right? To the beginning of the podcast. This belief that we are the doer. Over the time, the more I talk about this, the more I've realized this is really the essential part of the illusion. There is no pilot in the cockpit of the plane. There is only the plane and it is flying itself, right? And we believe we're the pilot. We have this whole dashboard and we can pull little levers and, there's thoughts and this is all managing the plane. And this is the illusion. There is a plane. There's a body. There's a plane. There are thoughts, but there is no dashboard. Or there's a dashboard, but it's not connected to anything. And there's no pilot.
It is very scary. I really love this bit of a ride. It's a kind of the same like a Tesla car, no driver. It just goes.
The car is driving itself, and it's not scary in that sense because the only thing you lose is the constriction and the stress of trying to be the driver that doesn't exist. And the car drives itself perfectly. And it's not like self-driving car. It's a perfectly functioning system. Imagine an organization or even a team where nobody was spending energy on worrying about themselves.
Yeah, that's waste. That's what Lean is talking about. Remove unwanted things. Focus on what is valuable.
It's focusing on themselves, which is the ultimate waste.
Yes.
Waste 80%, 90% waste.
Yeah.
All the day, all the day, all the time.
I feel like very more valuable is just with your own service.
We have a new definition for waste.
Yeah.
No.
I think all these insights are more relevant to lean way of product development. Thank you so much, Catherine, for sharing your insights about selfless leadership and how it is helpful to adopt systems perspective.
Thank you.
How we see the world creates how we act in the world. The heart of systems thinking is the inclusion of subjectivity, and it needs eyes which are capable enough to see beyond subjective assumptions and accept the present state. To shift our ego-centric view of the world to wholeness, Catherine guided us with the 4 key insights. We are being lived, we are new in every moment, always connected, and selfless service. So, the sense of separation is an illusion, and we are the system.